Ethan Carter was the kind of man people always counted on but rarely truly noticed. He lived in a small town in Ohio, working as a high school history teacher. His students loved the way he brought stories of the past to life, weaving lessons about courage, sacrifice, and integrity into every lecture. Outside of school, Ethan was the neighbor who shoveled snow from elderly people's driveways without being asked, the friend who showed up at 3 in the morning when your car broke down, and the man who always listened without judgment. He was, in every sense of the word, a good person. But good people often face the hardest tests, not from strangers, but from those they trust the most. For Ethan, that test came in the form of his longtime girlfriend, Jessica Miller. Jessica was vibrant, ambitious, and endlessly charming. Everyone in town admired her, and when she and Ethan began dating, people said they looked like the perfect couple. To outsiders, they were a match made in heaven. Ethan, steady and dependable, and Jessica, full of light and laughter. But what outsiders didn't see was how one-sided their relationship had quietly become. Ethan gave his all, his time, his heart, his support, while Jessica seemed to take more than she gave. At first, Ethan brushed it off, telling himself that love was about sacrifice. But over time, her indifference grew heavier on him, like carrying a weight he couldn't set down. The breaking point came one autumn evening. Ethan had just finished grading a mountain of essays and had spent hours preparing Jessica's favorite dinner, chicken Alfredo with homemade garlic bread. He lit candles, set the table, and even placed a small bouquet of daisies in the center because he knew they were her favorite. He wanted to surprise her, to remind her that he noticed the little things. But Jessica never showed up. Hours later, Ethan's phone buzzed with a simple text, "Out with friends. Don't wait up." The food grew cold. The candles burned down. Ethan sat alone at the table, staring at the empty chair across from him. He told himself not to be upset, that she deserved her freedom, that it wasn't a big deal, but a deep ache formed inside him. That ache grew even sharper when, a week later, he learned through whispers in town that Jessica had been seen laughing a little too closely with another man. At first, Ethan refused to believe it. He confronted Jessica gently, asking if there was something wrong between them, if there was something she wanted to tell him. She brushed him off with a laugh. "Ethan, you worry too much. Stop being so insecure." But the signs became impossible to ignore. Late-night calls, unexplained absences, a sudden coldness in her voice when she spoke to him. And then, one night, Ethan saw with his own eyes what he had dreaded most: Jessica walking hand in hand with another man outside a downtown restaurant. His chest tightened, his world tilted, but he didn't scream or make a scene. He simply turned and walked away, his heart heavy but his dignity intact. That was the night Ethan realized something important. When someone hurts a good person, it's not the good person who loses. The days that followed were some of the hardest of his life. People in town whispered. Some pitied him, others gossiped. But Ethan kept his head high. He showed up to work, continued caring for his students, and still helped his neighbors. He never spoke badly about Jessica, never retaliated, never let bitterness consume him. And yet, something inside him began to change. He realized that being good didn't mean letting people walk all over you. Being kind didn't mean tolerating disrespect. For years, he had given and given, believing that love meant sacrifice. But love, he now understood, also meant self-respect. Slowly, Ethan began to rebuild his life. He started jogging in the mornings, finding peace in the rhythm of his footsteps against the pavement. He picked up painting, a hobby he had abandoned years ago, and lost himself in the swirl of colors on canvas. He spent more time with his students, mentoring them not just in history but in life. His classroom became a place of warmth and inspiration, where kids who felt invisible finally felt seen. Meanwhile, Jessica's life took a different turn. At first, she flaunted her new relationship, parading around town with her new partner. But the excitement soon faded. The man she had chosen instead of Ethan didn't have the patience, loyalty, or quiet strength that Ethan had. Arguments replaced laughter, and what once seemed thrilling turned hollow. Slowly, Jessica began to realize the value of what she had lost. Months later, she showed up at Ethan's doorstep. Her eyes were red, her voice unsteady. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me." Ethan looked at her, his heart heavy but clear. Once, those words would have shattered him. Once, he would have begged for another chance. But now, he simply shook his head. "Jessica, I wish you the best. But I deserve better than being someone's second choice." For the first time in his life, Ethan chose himself. And that choice didn't make him any less good. It made him stronger. What followed was not a story of revenge or bitterness, but of growth. Ethan's kindness didn't vanish, but it became wiser. He continued to help others, but he also learned to set boundaries. He still believed in love, but he no longer settled for less than he deserved. And in time, love found him again. He met Claire, a fellow teacher who shared his passion for helping students. Claire admired Ethan not just for his kindness, but for his strength. Together, they built a relationship rooted in mutual respect, trust, and laughter. Years later, as Ethan stood at the altar with Claire, watching her walk toward him with tears in her eyes and a smile on her lips, he realized something profound. When someone hurts a good person, it may break them for a while. But eventually, that hurt becomes the fire that forges them into someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Because you can wound a good person, but you can't destroy them. Goodness has a way of rising again, brighter, bolder, and unstoppable.